There are two occasions that I'm aware of where the guys break kayfabe. One is Kenny admitting that he didn't really radiate Spenny,
The rules in the semen episode, I didn't really radiate him.
and the second is Spenny admitting that the ending of Bigger Balls was predetermined.
I hate to burst your bubble on that moment. The network said, Spenny's got to win.
So here we have a clear fake ending. But what about the rest of the episode? How much is real and how much is fake? Let's jump right into it. Arm bruising. The guys go back and forth punching each other on the arm. Kenny sneaks in a cheap shot and has a point deducted for unsportsmanlike behavior. The scene ends with a display of Kenny's dominance.
Jeff, can you please get me a cup of lemon tea with some honey?
You're the ref, but I'm the boss. Insect eating. Spenny eats larvae. Kenny refuses. Spenny earns the point. But who is this guy that they got to bring in the bugs? This is Peter Close. He works at Jungle Cat World Wildlife Park, and he's worked there since 1988. Why did they bring in a guy from Jungle Cat World for the simple purpose of supplying some larvae and in the next scene a scorpion? Because he also brought in a fucking tiger. In a segment cut from the episode only evidenced by this one photograph, Kenny appears to be baiting the tiger with a chicken. Allegedly, the tiger didn't do anything, so the segment was cut.
We had a tiger once. Tiger didn't do anything. It's like we didn't use the footage. I think it was
the warnings.
I think it was. I can't even remember what show that was.
Yeah.
At one point, a rumor was started that Peter had passed away, but he is alive and well. I believe someone mistakenly recalled him for Jim Levisek, who has indeed passed away. The Emperor Scorpion Challenge. Kenny picks it up and puts it in his hand. Spenny panics. Kenny earns the point. The Electricity Challenge. Ugh. YouTube has weird rules, but you know what this is. People say this is fake. I don't think it is. Argument number one, we don't see the wires go pew pew. That's because they're already in Kenny. See the wires here? And this guy also says, I'm going to put the darts in your back.
I'm going to put the darts in your back.
Argument number two, it doesn't sound right. It sounds like it's supposed to me. It makes that clicking sound. It lasts for 5 seconds, which is the standard cycle for electrically stimulating law enforcement complacency devices. I suppose they could have added the sound effect, so it's not good evidence. Argument number three, Kenny shouldn't be falling sideways. He should be falling forward or backward with stiff legs. I've seen plenty of videos online where they fall to the side. I'm not going to post any, but they're out there. Just trust me, bro. If he was flopping around on the ground like a fish, like maybe you'd have a better argument to say he's faking it here, but he goes stiff and straight. All the muscles in the body are contracting at the same time as a result of the high voltage. I think this is real, and I don't have anything more to add to it. Kenny earns the point. Karate. Evan Hind tosses the guys around for a while. Spenny gets an airplane spin.
We've got an airplane spin! A devastating move in pro wrestling!
But no points are awarded for this bit. Breaking Boards Challenge. Karate places do this as a confidence builder. It is not difficult to split a 3/4 inch thick piece of pine along the grain. And I don't think he ran out of wood. I think he just didn't want to waste any more on these two bozos, so they call it a draw. Tattoo and Piercing Challenge. Kenny gets a single dot tattooed on himself and earns the point. Spenny refuses to get a tattoo based on his personal beliefs.
I'm not doing it based on my own personal beliefs, that's all.
But like I've said before, it's amazing how time changes a man.
Spenny has always abused people for having tattoos.
Never.
You always hated tattoos.
Never.
Yes, you.
Well, you just make this shit up.
You do. You hated tattoos.
No, I
yeah,
didn't.
you did.
No. It's like I said, you'd grow in life. You learn to like. So here it is, the big reveal. That's Harpo, Groucho, and Chico. It's not Chico. It's Chico. Why did they call him Chico? Because he used to chase women, and they were called chicken chasers. That's the Marx Brothers, kids. You should watch their movies. Big influence on us.
The Pain Challenge. YouTube. One of the show's most popular and mysterious tertiary characters comes to deal some pain. Fet Night is actually supposed to be Fet Night, an abbreviation for fetish night. And according to Donnie, Kenny tried to get him to change it for TV.
Kenny wanted him to be called Ass Blaster. He goes, what if you call yourself Ass Blaster? No, I'm Fat Night. Like, I remember Kenny was like riffing on all these different names. He goes, Fat Night's kind of lame. You know, what if you're, I thought that was pretty funny.
He has to put his Kenny stamp on almost everything.
Even though Kenny doesn't take any more pain than Spenny, Spenny said the safe word 3 times, so Kenny gets the point. So, the score at this point is 3-1 for Kenny, and yet Kenny wants capitulation. So in an effort to make Spenny believe that Kenny is crazy, Kenny destroys Spenny's books, his alarm clock, his phone, his dresser, his lamp, and his sleepy time gal.
You can't get that anywhere.
You can get that on Amazon this moment for $70 Canadian. The scene leaves Spenny feeling dejected and leads us into the final scene of the competition. Cliff jumping. Spenny gives an ultimatum for Kenny to concede the competition or he will jump off the cliff at Bluffers Park. I don't want to invest a lot of time into this, but where exactly did Spenny sit on the cliff edge? This shot wants to convince you that he sat somewhere over here, but if you look at Spenny's location with regard to this peninsula-type landmass and with regard to these spiked rock formations, he sat over at the top of this sloped area. The camera angles present the scene at the cliff top with certain death waiting below, but it would have been more of a rough tumble down a rocky slope. And since the episode was released, Spenny appeared on Night Train TV where he broke kayfabe and admitted that the ending was predetermined by the broadcaster.
What was happening behind the scenes, Kenny was really winning all the competitions, and the network, who was very hands off in that particular episode, said, Spenny's got to win. So it was one of the few moments that was a little bit, I wouldn't say staged, but where we knew what the outcome was going to be. And there was nothing we could do because in the television business, the broadcaster rules, basically. I mean, you have to do what they do. It's funny you mentioned that episode because that is one of the only ones where there was that kind of interference.
So we know that the ending is fake. Let's extract the most important quotes from Spenny's confession and analyze what was happening in the lead up to the decision to make Spenny the winner. Kenny was winning all the competitions.
Kenny was really winning all the competitions.
The broadcaster said Spenny's got to win this particular episode.
And the network said, Spenny's got to win.
Wouldn't say staged, but we knew the outcome.
So it was one of the few moments that I wouldn't say staged, but where we knew what the outcome was going to be.
One of the only ones with that kind of interference.
Because that is one of the only ones where there was that kind of interference.
Number 1, Kenny was winning all of the competitions. All? There were only 2 episodes that aired before Bigger Balls, Beer and Naked. So in order to understand what Spenny means by winning all of the competitions, we need to review my chronologically confused about Season 2 video. Bigger Balls was actually filmed 10th overall from Season 2, according to me, and that means that if we assume Bigger Balls was the first time the network intervened and dictated a Spenny win, Kenny had won 5 out of 9. Beer, Naked, Funnier, Old People, and Bibles. The winner of the remaining 4 are up for debate. Did Spenny really win Journalist, or did Kenny just lose? You might say, what's the difference? Well, winning by default is not the same as defeating one's opponent. And I think that's where the broadcaster was coming from, is we're not seeing Spenny defeat his opponent. However, Spenny won first to talk because of Kenny's weakness for women. Although, as you'll see when I do analyze talk, I think Spenny lost that one early on. And then there's First to be Mean, where Spenny takes sleeping pills, passes out, and is inevitably humiliated. Did Spenny really win any of these competitions? I can see why a network would say Spenny needs to win one because we really hadn't seen one where Spenny dominated his opponent. He won by default, he got lucky, and he got pissed on. Would it be more fair to say Kenny won 5, lost 2, and tied 1? Maybe it would be reasonable to say Kenny had been winning all the competitions. Rapper is the last one to talk about, but we're going to come back to it. Number 2, the broadcaster. Which broadcaster is responsible for meddling with the reality of Season 2? Season 2 was broadcast on Showcase and the Game Show Network. I've heard Kenny referring to Showcase as they weren't hands-on and they weren't really checking in on what we were doing. However, the Game Show Network was actively involved in changing the show. I don't have the breakthrough edits saved in my archives, but they famously changed the narrative in the opening titles.
Since the beginning of time, mankind has been forced to compete for survival. Since they were little kids, Kenny and Spenny have challenged each other to countless games and contests.
They changed the narrative in Who is Funnier from an AIDS-based hoax to a gonorrhea-based hoax. And they changed the humiliation in Funnier from Spenny filleting a cucumber to Spenny unclogging a toilet with his bare hands.
I hope I taught all of you a good lesson. Get checked regularly, especially if you have the kind of sex Spenny has. Well, Spenny, you hate toilet humor. You're gonna be living it. Spencer! Entrevue! Gonorrhea boy.
You're gonna go to hell. You are going to hell for what you did.
I'm your best friend.
You crossed a line.
No, I love you.
Making me think I was ill.
I love you. Get in there and clean my toilet. Thank you, please.
Okay, it's plugged. You're telling me it's plugged?
It's plugged. It's totally clogged. I gotta go to the bathroom. Fix it. Put your hand in there and clean my bowl. Spencer the toilet man. What is in the toilet is accumulation of diarrhea and poopy skank from the past couple of days.
If you think I'm gonna slosh around in there for 20 minutes, you're out of your mind.
You have to unclog the clog.
Really, please, it smells. I could get malaria.
Well, you thought you had gonorrhea. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God!
Oh, there's nothing down there!
Dig!
I'm digging!
You have to unclog. Oh my God! Put your hand in.
I can't do it anymore.
Put your hand in and unclog my toilet. Turn your head.
It's
Turn
really
your
water.
Get through it.
I'm done.
I want to hear.
There's nothing in there. I'm done. Where's the cleaning supplies?
Anyways, I'd like to thank Spenny for actually doing that humiliation. But he is a trooper. See you next week, kid.
So for these reasons only, and with very little evidence, I am declaring that the Game Show Network is responsible for interfering with the outcome of this episode, and as I will reinforce momentarily, the majority of all things staged in Season 2. Number 3. Wouldn't say staged, but knew the outcome. What does he mean by this statement? Not staged, but knew the outcome. He means that the majority of this episode is real. The guys really had a series of bravery-themed mini-competitions, and if Spenny had been winning, there would have been no need to stage an ending. But, since Kenny won the majority of the mini-comps, a new outcome had to be put into action, and this is what they came up with. After Kenny makes Spenny feel like a coward in his own environment, Spenny attempts to display his bravery by threatening to jump. He demands capitulation on Kenny's part, and is therefore declared the winner by forfeit. So according to me, the competitions aren't staged, but they knew that Spenny had to win somehow, so they faked the ending. Let's analyze that ending, starting with Kenny's declaration. Kenny's statement before the bedroom crash out tells me all I need to know in order to connect the dots.
I gotta get in Spenny's head. I gotta make him think I'm crazy. It's the only way he's gonna quit.
Kenny says he needs Spenny to quit.
It's the only way he's gonna quit.
Why? Kenny was already winning the competition 3-1. So needing Spenny to quit is just an excuse to launch an attack on Spenny, which would otherwise have no place in the competition. Why does he have to make Spenny think he's crazy?
I gotta make him think I'm crazy.
He doesn't. He has to make Spenny look like a coward, because making Spenny look like a coward is the key to this narrative of getting Spenny emotionally distraught enough to wind up on a cliffside. The entire declaration is just for the audience. If we watch the events play out without Kenny's declaration of war, it wouldn't make any sense. What does destroying Spenny's room have to do with winning a braver competition? This scene is just a place to segue from the competition to the cliffside. You see, they could have just made Spenny have a tantrum over losing the competition and then go to the cliff and demand Kenny forfeit. But that wouldn't have made for good TV. Like, we would watch that and say, why would he do that? Is he going to do that every time he's losing? It makes more sense to build a narrative where Spenny is wanting to do something drastic to display his bravery in order to compensate for previously being made to look like a bitch. So according to me, the bedroom crash out is a staged way to transition from real competition to fake ending. But exactly how staged was it? My hypothesis is that it was planned fake, but it turned out more real than what Spenny was told was going to happen. Kenny said to him something along the lines of, I'm going to come in and toss some books around. And that's all Spenny knew. Some books were going to be thrown. But once Kenny began, he quickly escalated to a point way beyond what Spenny agreed to. I can hear it in Spenny's voice.
Hey, don't f***ing rip my books.
Culminating with Sleepy Time Gal.
No!
Spenny didn't know his prized possessions were going to be destroyed, and since his anguish is real, we should pay him some respect, because he is committed to restraining himself so Kenny can finish the bit. Just look at Spenny during the scene. He cowers in the corner while having things thrown at him. Since when does Spenny respond to violence by cowering in the corner? Normally, if Kenny does something, anything, to Spenny, he will automatically respond with violence.
Okay, don't.
Don't say that's real fight.
Ow, ow, Kenny! No! Stop! Don't. Oh, don't.
Spenny restrains himself so the scene can continue. To see Spenny cowering in the corner is, to me, another smoking gun that he's going along with a scripted narrative. Spenny needs to look like a coward so that he can later resent the way he was made to look and demand forfeiture through a show of courage. So he allows Kenny to continue his attack even though he didn't agree with it to this extent. The bedroom crash out scene is fake in the sense that it was constructed for the sole purpose of driving the narrative forward. However, it's real in the sense that Spenny never knew about the complete destruction of his room which would take place. So an obvious question is, if Spenny's got to win this one, why didn't Kenny just take a dive in all the events? Summarily, because where's the comedy value in that? Kenny has to dominate Spenny because that leads to a Spenny reaction. We have to see Spenny having a tantrum, Spenny screaming, Spenny scared, Spenny whining.
No. Ow! Oh, I got an extra one!
That's one of the main comedic engines of the series, Spenny reactions. But there's a more important reason why Kenny didn't take a dive in the Bravery mini-comps, because that would have made the entire episode fake. And as I'm about to argue, the last time they made an entire episode fake, they regretted it. Which brings us to point number 4, one of the only ones with that kind of interference. This statement on its own infers that there are multiple episodes with some kind of interference, some kind of fakery, arrangement, orchestration, or scripting. In my Rapper video, I outlined how the series of events could be explained as either completely real or completely fake, depending on what perspective you want to adopt. I myself was unable, or perhaps unwilling, to draw a conclusion. I didn't want to lean one way or the other because I really didn't have the evidence that I was looking for. Until now. Given that Spenny's Season 2 record up until Rapper is what I'm going to call 1-7, Talk being his only win, and given what we know about broadcaster interference in Bigger Balls, I think the broadcaster actually intervened right about here. I think after Mean, the network said, Spenny's got to win more. And so the guys sat down and scripted the entire Rapper episode, beginning to end, for Spenny to win. After Rapper was filmed and edited, they looked at the total disaster that it was and came up with a new format for scripting when it was necessary. Don't script the whole thing. If we have to fake it, just fake as little as possible. In this case, play out the competition as normal, just to see if Spenny can win, and if he can't, pull out a fake ending. As you will come to see, I feel as though this line here explains a lot. I think Season 2 pre-Rapper was mostly real. There were a few scenes that had to be put together after the fact to communicate with the audience, similar to how they added sound effects at the end of Van. But everything under the line had at least one major fake element. An entire script, an ending, a mother, a love interest. Dance is a whole nother can of worms for another day. So with that in mind, here's my take on the Bigger Balls competition. They began the competition as a normal, point-based competition with the guys doing a series of bravery-themed mini-comps to see who can earn the most points. If Spenny had won, then the guys would have no reason to stage an outcome, but Kenny was winning, so they needed to arrange something for Spenny to win. After being made to look like a coward by Kenny, Spenny would desperately attempt to display his bravery by threatening to jump unless Kenny forfeit the competition. Under the Game Show Network's direction of Spenny has to win more, Spenny would win 3 of the last 5 competitions: Rapper, Balls, and Rat Race. He had no interest in winning Kiss because he was trying to save his marriage, and Dance is, like I said, a can of worms for another day. As far as the humiliation goes, Kenny licking the bird turd is real. However, the entire sequence is deceptive to the audience. Do you see the difference between this and this? A few weeks. They shot the cliff scene when there were no leaves on the trees. Then suddenly, for the humiliation, the leaves were out. And Donnie had a different undershirt on. Black undershirt when he drags Spenny away from the cliff, and a white one when it's birdie turdy time. So what's my problem with that? They shot it and presented it as if it happened after they walked back from the cliff. But it actually took place weeks later. I don't know why they did that. It's normal for humiliations to take place, some time after the competition ends, like in Beer, Spenny sobered up and changed clothes, or in Naked when Spenny had to go downtown. There's no need for this to be presented as if it happened immediately after the cliff scene. They could have Kenny lick a turd literally anywhere, at any time. Which begs the question, was a different humiliation planned for the Bravery episode? Did they drive back there with a humiliation that would tie into the narrative, but licking the turd was a spur-of-the-moment idea that someone had, so they decided to go with that instead of the original plan? Was there a different humiliation planned for Bigger Balls? So who won this competition? Kenny, 3-1. And you might begin to debate if Spenny was even trying for some of those competitions. He just quit Scorpion, he quit Tattoo, and he quit the Electricity Challenge. Was he doing that because he knew it didn't really matter anyway? I don't know. Spenny is cowardly around creepy crawlies. Tattoos are against his beliefs. Okay, I can believe it. Maybe he didn't want to get zapped. So yeah, maybe Spenny was throwing the competitions because he knew he didn't have to do them. I don't have a good argument either way. Regardless, Kenny was braver. Kenny won. The tenet for this episode is commitment. More specifically, Kenny's commitment to making a good show. Given the fact that Spenny was always going to be declared the winner, Kenny didn't need to do any of this stuff. He didn't need to get himself tattooed. He didn't need to get zapped. He didn't need to get his butt cheeks turned into hamburger. But he did because he's committed to making a good show. He even ropes Spenny into his commitment when he goes above and beyond what he agreed to when he destroys the room, which is a testament to Kenny's disdain for faking things on the show. I'll make Spenny's reactions real by making this fake scene real. How does this one rate? Let's say 3 out of 5 Fet Nights. No points for narrative because the competition is only as real as the first half, and Spenny may have intentionally been losing to make the ending more impactful. He bails out of 3 of the mini comps, 2 of them without even trying. Half a point for interactions because there are some memorable back and forth moments. No, it didn't bit you, and Kenny keeps trying to throw Spenny under the bus.
That was his idea. Benny told me to say that.
Yeah, Benny told you to say that.
1 point for reactions. Some of the reactions are fake, but Spenny having a tantrum over the illegal punch and trying to squirm away from Fet Night is the classic Spenny that we love.
No, that's one. No, you don't. No.
1 point for characters. Fet Night, the karate guy tossing him around, the tattoo girl describing a Prince Albert. Even the crew gets a good topical joke in there.
I don't think he had the balls.
Is likely scripted, but anyway. Half a point for rewatchability. Knowing that the ending is fake definitely takes away from the enjoyability of the episode, but it's got plenty of memorable scenes that we've been quoting for the last 20 years, so half a point is fair. And now this. Wonderful. I know there's been a lot of requests for this one. I'm going to try and do it without getting canceled. Who can make love to more women will be next. So what do you think? Was the first half of the competition real? Is the Game Show Network responsible for all that is fake in Season 2? Did Spenny really have the balls? As always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.